Other campaigns we have going is ongoingly is we have a branch in the Galapagos Islands where I've personally been. I arrived there in the year 2000. We did not have much connection there yet. We were on our way from here through the Panama Canal to the seal hunt, made a stop in the Galapagos, spoke with the Ecuadorian National Park Service and asked if we could help them with their anti-poaching activities, because a lot of poaching going on in the Darwin place and where all life is still in its natural state, and is that kind of a place with all these beautiful islands there where things are supposed to be left alone in their ecosystem. So there's poaching going on there of sea urchins, of key species that are supposed to be left alone over there, and including of course shark finning, which is another story. So we have since made a connection with the Ecuadorian Park Service, and we are helping them to a very large extent with communication radios, and with our boat. One of our ships, Cyrene, is there ongoingly, and we have our captain Alex Cornelissen being the director of Sea Shepherd Galapagos. And so we're actually cooperating with the government there, putting our oomph behind that, and our publicity, and with the Dutch police gave them radio communication systems, and all sorts of interesting things is going on there. And so another country where we're actually helping the government as of like a few months ago is the government of Palau, one of the South Pacific islands, which is an interesting government. It has some tribal elders in the government, and it has some there's a strange coalition government going on there, but my captain was asked to come at a meeting there, and would we help them with a ship to stop their shark poaching that's going on there. So our thing is always like, we don't do politics, we don't do governments, we do oceans. So whenever anybody, it could be anybody saying, hey, there is poaching going on here, there's illegal killing of key marine species, overfishing, high sea drift netting, which has a moratorium on it, of course, whaling, dolphin kill. Whoever points out to us like there's illegal activity going on here, we're right there. We will put our might and all of our now thousands of volunteers behind that. Which is another thing I wanted to say, is that everybody who crews on the ship or runs booths, whatever we do over here, we're all volunteer. Every time when I've gone on a campaign in the last 10 years or so, it was always going through my amount of personal sacrifice first to save the pennies, fly to where they need me, be available for however long they needed me, and volunteer services over there, endure hardship. I put this on as a joke because I wanted to joke that this is what your crew shirt looks like beforehand, before a campaign. And then, after a campaign, it's usually your only t-shirt, and you get like maybe one shower every 3 days, and it's like, it could be anywhere from really harsh, freezing cold, 3 down jackets, just your nose sticking out of everything, to completely being tortured by not enough ventilation around the Ecuador, and so you live pretty primitively. And this really was my shirt during the Galapagos in 2000. And no, I didn't get beaten up or anything. It just kind of the fabric kind of just got wrecked, And then so I put this on as a joke. Good thing there's no cameras, because this is not what we normally like to present ourselves. And of course, this is my pride and joy, because I was actually lucky enough to be able to rip myself away from my personal life in Christmas Eve between 06 and 07, and run over to Punta Arenas, Chile, and catch a secret ship that we had just purchased that nobody knew about. It was coming, and it picked a few of us up. The Japanese knew that there was that our Farley Mowat was coming from Melbourne. It was slower than the whaling fleet, that ship, and we had been using that every year, and we had done campaigns, and we had done everything we could with one slow ship, and been quite successful considering. But this time we had snuck another ship in there, which was at the time called the Robert Hunter, after one of the other Greenpeace founders, who has since passed away, and we had his daughter on board with us. So in her dad's honor, we named that ship Robert Hunter. It has since been renamed Steve Irwin, because then Steve Irwin, also a great conservationist, has passed away. And so now that's the Steve Irwin that you see in Whale Wars. So that ship was purchased in Europe, and we didn't have much money yet. We weren't famous yet through Whale Wars, and it picked a few of us up, and it was faster than the whaling fleet. So as a sneak attack, all of a sudden the Japanese were confronted by 2 ships when we finally located them. And it's like, and all of a sudden we had a ship that could outrun them, so we could stay on their stern. They cannot bring dead whales on board as long as we stay glued onto their stern. Our old ship, the Farley Mowat, we took all the good stuff off it during that campaign. We tied the 2 ships up together with buoys. It was a pretty hairy situation to do this in Antarctica. It was crazy. And we took all the stuff off there, loaded it onto the Robert Hunter, and we... the captain then was starting to play the media. If you look at that book, Guide for an Eco-Warrior Strategy, it's called Earth Force. It shows his martial arts strategy that he uses for all the campaigns. And in this case, the campaign was such that where he was able to use the media, and he was even in touch with politicians in Australia and New Zealand all the time to kind of push them to say, why are we enforcing the laws? Why are you not enforcing the laws? This kind of conversation was going on. So he starts to tell the media about, well, one of our ships is dispensable, and maybe it's time for this Nisha Maru factory killing ship to get a steel enema up its rear end. You know, one of the things you do in the media is, you know, sex, violence, celebrity, you know, so it's like, you know, use them all, you know. So, you know, and so all of a sudden the whole international press, you know, Associated Press, Russia, we started to get all these newspaper articles put in front of us in the mess like, yeah, the Associated Press is saying that Sea Shepherd is saying they're going to give the Japanese a steel enema. you know, whatever it takes, you know, it's whatever catches people's attention. But these things spread like a little wildfire, you know. At least now everybody knew. But anyway, we didn't really need to do that. We could have. There was no real opportunity to do such. It might have caused pollution. We didn't want to do that in a sanctuary either. But it was a nice thing to say. And since then, that same ship has gotten confiscated by the Canadian authorities during the seal hunt, which was fine because it's a cheap way to get rid of a ship. Normally it costs a lot of money to get rid of a ship and bring it to junkyards and things, and the Canadian government is taking care of all of that for us. So it's all working out great. This is again strategy. Strategy also is to be financially frugal and get the government to do the jobs for you that you don't want to do. So that was that campaign. Now the year after my campaign, which was a lot of searching for the whaling fleet, because they have ways sometimes to figure out where we are, but we don't know where they are. So my captain is extremely knowledgeable of the whale migrations. There's 2 migrations of whales converging from 2 different directions into the Ross Sea area over there. And yeah, the whalers know where these whales are, but so do we. So we kind of have a feeling for where they are, plus that they say they're only going to do their so-called research in a certain area. So we did find them eventually, and you know, it was an all hands on deck situation, and it was like have a good bowl of oatmeal at sunrise very quick, because this could be a long day. When we located Nisha Maru, and so we did the usual, what we always do, you know, we do butyric acid, rotten butter, stink bombs to get their attention. We have since discontinued that because rotten butter is called butyric acid. It's like the Japanese then started to say like, they're throwing acid at us, you know, and so it's like, okay, we don't need to do that. So we also have the kind of stuff that makes you swallow a pill easier. It goes down. It's a slippery powder, and you can put it in little brown grocery bags. And you can. We're so close to that ship that we can usually throw a little brown grocery bag with the slippery powder onto their decks, and it keeps their deck slippery for a long, long time. And it gets more slippery the more you try to wash it off. So that renders them incapacitated for a while. Makes them angry. It makes them do their water cannons, and we do our water cannons. It's there's really good footage of all of that. It's very interesting, and it's just something that is playing itself out there, and it's like there is 2,000 nautical miles of nothingness. It's not you can call Daddy or the Coast Guard and say help. And it's just last year we had several ships with a total of I think 88 crew members total, international people, all ages, all skills or no skills, but you gain skills very fast on the ship, I learned. Even the skills that you never thought you would gain. And so 88 of us were there as the good pirates and telling the whales, hey, we're here as your allies. And there's usually about at least 100 or so crew on these other ships, and it's like, okay, they're I guess they're making a living. But it's in an area where there is at least 4 laws that we could quote that are making it illegal to whale in Antarctica. They're using the scientific loophole. It's for research. We have to kill them to see how old they were when we killed them. We have to kill them to see how many of them were pregnant when we killed them. They even cop to it that was all, a story, and it's being used for meat. It doesn't need to be used for meat. It's poisoned. Unfortunately, our whales and dolphins in the ocean, being in the top of the food chain enough where they are, unfortunately they have high levels of mercury in them, making them actually unsafe for human consumption. To me that's incredibly sad, because for me, that humans can't eat them and are eating them, that's one thing. A lot of people would care about that. I care about the fact that if these animals have that much mercury in them, they must be feeling like a person living with AIDS, having a compromised immunity system, having a lesser quality of life, not feeling their optimum best. So I'm just really sad about the state of the planet, that it gets our attention when we say, oh, when we eat them it hurts, it might hurt our health, and I'm going, these animals have that in them again, because humankind upset the balance. I believe that we can clean things up.